A single new ATM machine costs $2,700 to $3,100 in 2025. That number has moved up. The major ATM manufacturers, Nautilus Hyosung in South Korea, Diebold Nixdorf in Germany and the United States, are subject to U.S. import tariffs, and a unit that quoted at $2,400 in early 2024 is now consistently priced above $2,800. Refurbished machines run 20 to 30% cheaper and will work as long as they are EMV chip compliant and meet ADA accessibility requirements, both of which are non-negotiable for legal operation. Those are not optional features you can skip to save money. They are the baseline. The machine is not the expensive part. The vault cash is the expensive part. Every ATM you deploy needs currency inside it. Budget $1,500 to $5, $0 per machine in working capital. Physical currency sitting inside a steel box, available to be dispensed. That money is not a cost. You will theoretically get it back. But it is locked. It earns nothing. It cannot be deployed elsewhere. On a 20-machine network, you are floating $30,000 to $100,000 in idle cash that is simultaneously unavailable for any other purpose, exposed to physical theft, and shrinking in real terms due to inflation. Most first-time operators underestimate this number and find themselves underfunding machines that run dry every 3 days. A machine that runs out of cash stops generating revenue and starts generating out-of-service fees from your processor. Both of those outcomes hurt. Add installation at $200 to $500 per unit, wireless connectivity at $15 to $30 per month, and a liability policy at $400 to $700 per year for a one-machine operation, scaling to a negotiated blanket policy as the portfolio grows, and your all-in deployed cost per machine is $5,500 to $9,000, of which roughly $2,000 to $5,000 is vault cash you should recover at the end. That is the solo entry point. One machine, one location partner, one 1099 at the end of the year. The second tier is a 10-machine operation, which is where the business starts to look like something you can actually hold. Total deployed capital runs $55,000 to $90,000, including vault cash. Monthly operating overhead, processing fees, connectivity, insurance, and basic maintenance is $2,000 to $5,000. At this scale, you are almost certainly using a third-party cash-in-transit service to replenish your machines, because the alternative is driving around the city with a bag full of $20 bills, which is how people get robbed and how people accidentally acquire criminal exposure that has nothing to do with their ATM business. CIT service adds $200 to $400 per machine per month in replenishment costs, which eats directly into margin and must be factored from day one. The third tier is a network of 50 to 200 machines, at which point the unit economics begin working in your favor, but the operational infrastructure requirements become professional grade. You need field technicians. You need a vault and cash counting operation or a contracted armored courier. You need remote monitoring software that tells you which machines are low, offline, or experiencing errors before your location partners call you at midnight. You need a back office team managing location contracts and processor reconciliation. Capital requirements are $500,000 to $2.5 million. You are not a hobbyist who bought a machine. You are running a logistics company. The fourth tier is institutional acquisition. And the reference points here are two of the largest transactions in ATM industry history. In January 2021, NCR Corporation acquired Cardtronics, at the time the world's largest non-bank ATM operator, for $2.5 billion in an all-cash deal at $39 per share. Cardtronics operated the Allpoint network with more than 55,000 ATM locations globally. Divide $2.5 billion by 55,000 machines. That's roughly $45,000 per deployed terminal in enterprise value, inclusive of contracts, processing infrastructure, brand relationships, and proprietary technology. Then in 2026, Brinks announced its acquisition of NCR Atleos. The ATM infrastructure business NCR had spun out in October 2023 for $6.6 billion, with closing expected in the first quarter of 2027. The combined entity will carry approximately $10 billion in total annual revenue and realize estimated cost synergies of $200 million per year. Those numbers define the ceiling of this industry. They also tell you that the exit is real and that it goes through armored car companies. Now, the regulatory gauntlet. This part surprises almost everyone because it is simultaneously lighter and more dangerous than most people expect. If you operate a standard ATM that dispenses cash and shows account balances, you are not classified as a money services business under the Bank Secrecy Act. FinCEN has issued explicit guidance on this point. You are not required to register with the IRS as an MSB. You are not required to maintain a standalone anti-money laundering compliance program. You are not required to file suspicious activity reports. The Federal Financial Institutions Examination Council's BSA-AML examination manual addresses independent ATM operators in a dedicated section that largely exempts basic operators from the most intensive compliance requirements applicable to money transmitters and check cashers. This is a genuine regulatory advantage over nearly every other business category in the financial services sector. It is also exactly the environment that produces the two case studies you'll hear shortly. What you do need: bank sponsorship. Independent ATM operators connect to the Visa and MasterCard payment rails through an ISO structure, an independent sales organization agreement with a sponsor bank that approves your network for card processing, monitors your transaction flows, and carries BSA compliance exposure related to your operation. If that bank decides you are a risk, they can terminate the relationship and file a suspicious activity report with FinCEN without notifying you first. You will find out when your machines stop processing transactions. The machines will still be there. They will simply no longer work. You also need PCI DSS compliance, the payment card industry data security standard, enforced not by government regulators but by the card networks directly. ATMs handling card data are subject to PCI PIN security requirements and PCI ATM security guidelines. Non-compliance means fines assessed by the card brands, starting at several $1,000s per month and escalating significantly for serious or prolonged violations. There is no court date, no warning letter from an agency, and no opportunity to negotiate. The card networks decide, and you either comply or lose access to the rails. Some states add their own layer. New York requires ATM operators to register with the state banking regulator and post specific disclosure language on each machine. California has its own disclosure requirements. Several states have enacted fee caps or disclosure mandates specific to the surcharge. Check state-level requirements before deploying in any new market. The timeline from entity formation to first live machine with an active processing relationship is typically 60 to 120 days. The bottleneck is bank sponsorship approval, not hardware. You cannot rush it. You can ruin it by providing incomplete documentation, inconsistent information about principals, or a portfolio of proposed locations that raises questions the sponsor bank doesn't like answering. The faster path, the one most serious operators actually take, is acquiring an existing route rather than building from scratch. An established 10 to 20 machine portfolio with working location contracts and an existing processor relationship typically trades at 3 to 5 times annual net cash flow. A 20 machine network clearing $72,000 a year in net income prices at $216,000 to $360,000. You inherit the contracts, the processing relationship, and the bank sponsorship history. You skip 6 months of setup friction. The due diligence is the entire job. Age and renewal terms of location contracts, exclusivity clauses, whether the prior operator's compliance file is clean, and whether any machines are EMV non-compliant and due for replacement. Cardtronics itself was built almost entirely on this playbook. Regional acquisitions of smaller operator portfolios rolled up over years into the 55. Zirza Machine Footprint NCR paid $2.5 billion to own. The mechanism, let's strip it down. You are in the cash distribution business. The analogy that actually holds, a parking meter. Not because the returns are similar, they aren't, but because the revenue model is identical. You rent a corner of someone else's real estate, you place a device that delivers a service on demand, and you charge the end user a usage fee every time they access it. The location owner is happy because they collect a share of revenue from square footage they were not monetizing. You are happy because the device runs without you present. The cardholder is happy enough to keep using it at 2 a.m. when the only other option is driving to a branch that is closed. The mechanics. Every ATM transaction generates two revenue streams. The surcharge is the fee charged directly to the cardholder, typically $2.50 to $4, with $3, 00 being the most common figure in non-premium U.S. locations. The interchange fee is paid by the cardholder's issuing bank to the ATM network for routing access to that cardholder's account, averaging $0. $25 to $1.50 per transaction. You receive a portion of the interchange depending on your processor agreement and ISO structure. Single machine honest numbers, 200 transactions a month at a $3. So zero surcharge is $600 gross. Pay the location owner their 20% fee, $120, and net down for processing fees of $40, connectivity of $20, and amortized maintenance of $30, and you are at roughly $390 per machine per month. On a $6,000 deployed asset inclusive of vault cash, that is an annualized return of 78% in theory. In practice, the machine at location 12 will see 80 transactions a month because that corridor went contactless in 2023. The machine at location 7 will have its first keyboard failure in month 5, a $400 repair visit. The bar that seemed like an excellent placement will lose its lease, and your 18-month contract will evaporate. Average realized return across a well-managed small portfolio runs closer to $200 to $350 per machine per month. At institutional scale, with optimized CIT routes, negotiated bulk processing rates, and proprietary remote monitoring, the better operators push $400 to $500 per machine per month in net contribution. At scale, the math behind NCR Atleos' revenues, built on the Cardtronics infrastructure, is the same $3 surcharge running on 55,000 machines simultaneously in 2025. Brinks paid $6.6 billion for the right to own that income stream going forward. The single most important thing to understand about this business is that the location contract is the asset. The machine is a commodity. Anyone with $3,000 and a bank account can buy a machine. The right to place that machine in a convenience store in a cash-dense neighborhood with 350 transactions a month and a 15% location fee, locked in for 3 more years, that is the thing with value. When operators talk about building a portfolio, they mean a portfolio of contracts. The hardware is the delivery mechanism. Now the case studies, both end badly. They fail in entirely different ways. On February 28, 2025, Olumide Osunkoya, 46, was sentenced to 4 years in prison at Southwark Crown Court in London. He is the first person ever criminally convicted in the United Kingdom, specifically for illegally operating a crypto asset ATM network. His company was called Gidi Plus Limited. The timeline is precise. Osunkoya applied to the Financial Conduct Authority for registration to operate crypto ATMs in 2020. The FCA denied the application in 2021. He deployed anyway. Between December 30, 2021 and March 12, 2022, a window of 72 days, he operated 28 crypto ATMs across various UK locations without the required FCA registration. When Gidi Plus was shut down, he did not stop. He transferred the machines out of the company and continued running a reduced network of up to 12 ATMs as a sole trader, operating under a false identity. To maintain access to the crypto exchange he was using to process transactions, he forged 4 bank statements to pass source of wealth checks. He incorporated a new company under a fabricated name and false identity documents. When authorities recovered cash found in his possession, they seized $19,540. The FCA calculated total activity across the operation at over £2.5 million. He pleaded guilty on September 30th, 2024 to 5 counts. operating crypto ATMs without FCA permission as company director, operating without FCA permission as a sole trader under a false identity, forgery, using a false instrument, and possessing criminal property. The sentence: 4 years. The FCA called it the first criminal conviction in the United Kingdom for illegal crypto asset ATM operation. The structure of this failure is specific. Osunkoya ran a real business. The machines worked. The transactions cleared. The failure was deploying in a jurisdiction that requires a registration he had specifically been denied, then compounding the regulatory infraction with forgery and identity fraud to stay operational after being told no. The 19,540 pounds seized was criminal property not because of fraud committed against customers, but because every pound generated by an unlicensed operation is tainted. Every decision to cover up the first problem created a new, worse problem. He did this on a rolling basis across 72 days, and then for months afterward with fake identity documents. The second case has a completely different shape. Firas Issa, 36, is the founder and CEO of Virtual Assets LLC, which operates under the name Crypto Dispensers. The company runs a network of cryptocurrency ATMs across the United States. In late 2025, the Department of Justice charged Issa and his company with 1 count of conspiracy to commit money laundering. The indictment alleges that between 2018 and 2025, 7 continuous years, Issa knowingly accepted proceeds from wire fraud and narcotics trafficking through the company's ATM network, converting the illicit cash into cryptocurrency and transferring it to wallets designed to conceal the origin of the funds. The amount charged in the indictment is $10 million. Issa has pleaded not guilty and faces a maximum sentence of 20 years if convicted. A status hearing was scheduled for January 30, 2026. Days after the indictment was filed, Crypto Dispensers announced it was evaluating a potential $100 million sale of the company. Pause on that sequence. The company was worth $100 million. The charge covers $10 million in alleged proceeds. The operator ran the network for 7 years, through the 2022 crypto collapse, through an entire market cycle, across thousands of individual machine transactions before the Department of Justice filed. The alleged conduct was not the company. It was a practice running alongside the company for its entire operating life. The Osunkoya case is what happens when you skip the license and get caught within months. The Issa case is what the DOJ alleges happens when you have the license and use the legitimacy of your operation as cover for sustained AML failure. These are the 2 poles of how this industry punishes. 4 rules come directly out of those cases. 1. Your bank sponsor is not an administrative formality. The ISO sponsorship bank carries compliance exposure on your behalf. When your institution's transaction monitoring flags anomalous patterns in your machines, unusual cash volumes, concentration at specific terminals, structuring threshold transactions, the process does not start with a courtesy call. It starts with account termination and a SAR filed with FinCEN. The bank's interests in a crisis are not aligned with yours. Know that going in. 2. The location contract is the asset. The compliance record is the operating license. The machine can be replaced in 48 hours. The processor relationship that took 4 months to establish can be lost in 1. A clean AML history is what keeps the processing relationship intact, and it is not recoverable once it is materially damaged. You do not get to start over with a new sponsor bank after one goes wrong for cause. 3. Crypto ATMs and cash ATMs operate under different regulatory regimes in every major jurisdiction. The UK, the EU, the US, Canada, and Australia have all implemented crypto-specific registration requirements that do not apply to standard cash ATMs. Operating a crypto ATM under the compliance assumptions that apply to a cash ATM is how Osunkoya ran 28 machines for 72 days and ended up with a 4-year sentence. The distinction between the 2 categories has been more aggressively enforced since 2022, and the direction of regulation is not toward relaxation. 4. Every cover-up you attempt after a regulatory problem inflates your criminal exposure faster than the underlying offense. Osunkoya's core offense was operating without a license. His sentence is 4 years because he added forgery, false identity, and possession of criminal property on top of it. The first problem is always recoverable. The cover-up of the first problem is usually not. The single biggest structural threat to this business model is not a fraud case. It is not a regulator. It is not a cyber attack. It is the secular decline of cash usage in developed markets. The global ATM market is projected to grow at 3.6% annually to $31.64 billion by 2030. That growth figure is accurate and misleading in equal measure. The expansion is concentrated in emerging markets, South Asia, Sub-Saharan Africa, Southeast Asia, where banking penetration is still increasing, and ATMs are being deployed into communities that have never had branch access. In North America, where independent operators are most active and surcharge margins are highest, the trajectory of cash as a share of consumer transactions has been negative for over a decade. Mobile wallets, contactless cards, and peer-to-peer payment apps have absorbed the segment most likely to produce ATM demand, small, spontaneous, in-person purchases. A bar that processed 300 transactions a month on its ATM in 2019 may be processing 170 today because half its customers are tapping a phone or a watch, and the other half have set up automatic cashback at the grocery store so they rarely need a machine at all. The operators who survive this compression are the ones holding contracts in structurally cash-dependent locations. Cannabis dispensaries in states where federal banking restrictions force cash-only operations, underbanked population corridors, international tourist zones where foreign cardholders need local currency, and entertainment venues in areas with poor connectivity where card processing is unreliable. The operators who will not survive it are the ones with machines in suburban pharmacy chains and big box grocers that have now covered every register in contactless terminals and actively promote cashback at checkout as a service differentiator. The Brink's acquisition of NCR Atleos for $6.6 billion in 2026 is being read by the industry as either a contrarian bet on cash's long-term durability, a sophisticated infrastructure consolidation play, timed ahead of a market contraction, or a very expensive way to find out which of those it is. Time to pull this together and answer the actual question: how much money do you make if you do this right? Scenario 1. 20 machines deployed across a mix of bar, hotel, and convenience store locations in a mid-sized U.S. city. Total capital deployed: $100,000, $60,000 in machine hardware and setup costs, $40,000 in vault cash. Each machine averages 200 transactions per month at a net surcharge of $2.75 after location fees and processing. That is $550 per machine per month in net surcharge revenue, $11, zero zone monthly across the portfolio. Operating costs: cash replenishment service $2,000, insurance $750, processing and connectivity $900, repairs and supplies $400. Total monthly costs $4,050. Net profit $6,950 per month or $83, $400 per year. Payback on the $60,000 in sunk hardware capital, just over 8 months. That is the ceiling of a clean solo operation. The realistic floor, after 2 underperforming locations, 1 vandalism incident in year 1, and 1 location contract that evaporates when a venue changes ownership, is closer to $55,000 to $65,000 net annually. That is still a strong return. It is also a job, not a passive investment. You are managing cash logistics for 20 machines, and you are either doing it in person or paying someone to do it for you. Scenario 2. A 300-machine regional portfolio assembled over 3 years through 1 acquired route plus organic placements. Total invested capital, $2.8 million. Machine hardware, vault cash, 2 CIT vehicles, a 6-person operations team, back-office monitoring software, and compliance infrastructure. Monthly gross revenue, $165,000. Monthly operating overhead, including staff, insurance, armored courier contracts, processing fees, and repairs, $95,000 net, $70,000 per month, $840,000 per year. Payback period just under 40 months. Ongoing return on deployed capital, 30%. More importantly, A 300 machine portfolio with a clean compliance history and a weighted average contract life above 2 years is a saleable asset at 3 to 5 times EBITDA. A $2.5 to $4.2 million exit on a $2. $8 million investment, not including cash returns during the hold period. That exit is available to you. It is not available if your compliance file has a SAR or an ISO termination in it. Which brings us back to where we started. The ATM operator network is not a passive income business. It is a cash logistics company, a compliance company, and a contract portfolio business dressed up to look like passive income. The machine in the corner of the gas station is the least interesting part of the operation. The most interesting part is the 7-year window between when Firas Issa allegedly first accepted criminal proceeds and when the Department of Justice filed its indictment. 7 years. $100 million in company valuation. 20 years maximum exposure. What you do with that math is up to you. If this episode was useful, the subscribe button is below. We run one of these every week.